Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bradley's House, the podcast. I'm Watson, she's Sherlock, and today's show is no mystery at all. We've got another fun, action-packed episode of Bradley's House. Kelly, who are we hanging out with today?
Sherlock and Watson, really? All right, no, I applaud your creativity for sure, Jarett. Today we have with us a talented singer-songwriter, musician, producer who's worked with some big names in the music business. He's also been very vocal about his struggles with mental health, and I really respect him for that. Please welcome Dylan Garcia to the show. Dylan, thanks for being with us.
Hey,
Welcome,
you guys
man.
for having me.
Absolutely. We're thrilled. So, you're originally from Southern California, right?
Yes, I was born and raised in Oxnard, California.
Oh, nice. Right on.
Yeah.
So you're not too far.
Nuh-uh. But I did spend several years in Orange County because I went to school at UC Irvine.
Oh, right on. Okay, yeah, that's not too far from me. Very cool. And did you grow up in a big family?
I have my younger brother. We're about 4.5 years apart, and my baby sister we're 15 years apart.
Right on. Are they musical as well?
No, just me. I'm the only one in the family that picked up an instrument.
Really? None of your parents or anything?
No. I mean, my dad had a really awesome record collection when I was young. That's kind of how I was introduced to music was, I used to mess around and I used to get the thermometer when I was a kid and put it on the light bulb when my dad told my mom I felt sick. And I used to get the thermometer and then put it on the light bulb so I could miss school just so I could listen to records all day.
Nice.
There was a couple times though it was funny because I left the thermometer on the light bulb too long, so I put it back in my mouth. My mom comes in and it says I'm at 107-degree fever,
You end up in the hospital. That's
I was just
funny.
saying, Mom, I'll be fine. Just put an ice pack on my head.
See, I wish someone had told me about the thermometer and the light bulb thing when I was a kid. I
might have invented it because nobody showed me. It was just like common sense. You test the light bulb, it gets hot. And, sometimes I just didn't want to feel like going to school. I wanted to do other things.
Brilliant. I love it. And then when did you start playing music?
I started, when I was in junior high school, I enrolled in band class and I played saxophone, and that was in 8th grade. But I was also in singing too. I was in chorus. So I was in chorus in 7th grade, and then I played saxophone in 8th grade. So that's that's how I always enjoyed singing. But see, the thing was in that chorus class, I was a 7th grader, and our teacher had she wanted me to do all these lead roles. But then, when you're at that age and you're at junior high school, you're coming into that time when you want to feel like you're cool and you don't want to get made fun of by the older people. So I ended up getting kicked out of the class because I refused to do the lead parts, and Mom wasn't too happy. Yeah, Mom wasn't too happy about that.
Yeah, but moms are never happy about that.
They're picking on me. Moms are picking on me. Don't you get it? And it was like we were singing Disney songs. So it's like the teacher wanted Miss Fuller, she wanted me to do the Aladdin solo parts. And I'm like, really? I'm dark. I'm kind of short, People are calling me Aladdin now. This isn't cool.
Not okay.
Real nice, Miss Fuller. You've been put on blast here on Bradley's House. Look what you did to poor Dylan.
Not appreciated, Mrs. Fuller. Now, I have to ask you about this because your Instagram bio says Native American surf rocker with a reggae Latino twist. That is such a fabulous combination of things. Tell us about some of your influences.
Well, growing up, I listened to a lot of El Chicano. They were a 70s soul band. They were and they were really about, at that time, the Chicano movement was really big. And my dad was kind of involved, heavily involved in that stuff when I was young. So those were the kind of records around the house. But he had a 12-inch record of Sade. He had who else? Santana. And he loved the funk. So he had God, what is their name? He listened to a lot of funk music too. So when we were when I was growing up, every Friday it was when we would wash the cars together, and there was a radio station, the KCSB, the radio station out at UC Santa Barbara. They had this old school like radio show that would come on at 5:00 on Friday. So we were always tuned into that religiously, like just waiting to see what old school gems got played.
Nice. I think parents can have so much a positive impact on their kids by introducing them to different kinds of music at a young age. Yeah. And I think it's so powerful. I know I've done that. I have 2 boys. They're, good grief, how old are they now? Almost 23, and one just turned 18. And music has always been a big part of our family, so it was always playing. And for the longest time, until they became teenagers, everything they listened to were the things that I listened to, which was fabulous, right? But then they started getting their own musical styles and introducing me to music, and it just gave it a whole new twist, and it's just so much fun.
That's like the coolest part, I think, about music is the introduction, when you get introduced to a new sound, a new artist, a new style of music, and it captivates you. I mean, I'll tell you, so we were ditching high school, and I was ditching high school. It was my junior year, and I wasn't driving yet, but a guy on my baseball team had a car, and we were all ditching to go to the beach and go get burritos down in Silver Strand. And that was the very first time I had ever heard Sublime.
Really?
I was in the backseat of the car, and he's playing. He's like, it was this has got to be like, I want to say 1997, maybe 1998. Oh, wow. And the music came on, and I was just like, what is this? Like, I've never heard anything like this in my life, and coming from a Latino family, I wasn't exposed to much reggae music or just any style of music besides what we have on the urban radio station here in Oxnard. So that was just like, it blew my mind, because we were headed to the beach, we were going to get burritos, and I think he was playing like Santeria, and I was just like, wait a minute, what is going on right now? And it was like, who is this? And they're like, you don't know who Sublime is? And I'm like, no.
They definitely would encapsulate a lot of those similar influences that you have as far as surf rocker with a reggae Latino twist. I mean, they really had all that for sure. Definitely.
Like that. So when I started playing guitar, I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore at UC Irvine. I came home from school for like a week during Christmas break, because I still had a job out in Orange County that I couldn't stay at home the whole time and with my folks. And the girl that I was dating, my first real love in life in college, being out on my own, she dumped me on New Year's Eve. And and so I call my buddy who was in a band, and I was like, dude, I want to go get a guitar. And we went to the Guitar Center. A Guitar Center had just opened up, like grand opening in Oxnard. And that's when I bought my guitar. It was a Takamine. And all I wanted to do was learn how to play guitar, to write, sad songs about being brokenhearted and be all emo about it. At that time, emo was really popping off. Emo music was really popping off at that time. And so my roommate in college, he would always go home all the time, because he lived pretty close. And so I was spend a lot of time in the dorm by myself. And the very first song that I learned to play, and the song that was like, that I wanted to play, was Batfish. And nice. And that was the thing, there was like a scene, there was like kind of the scene was kind of exploding at that time. I think at that time in college, I want to say around in the year 2000 and 2001. Mm-hmm. And there was like so much music, and it was like when Napster was like a big deal, and and you could download, leave your computer downloading while you're in class, all kinds of music. And I got exposed to so much, like the Get Up Kids, Saves the Day, like there was these bands, Phoenix TX, like all these bands that were just really blowing up, and that was really what captivated me at that time in my life. And that's when I was learning to play guitar, and I feel like there was just such great music all coming out around that time, like, and it was a major influence. I also learned how to play the Foo Fighters Everlong, and I was learning how to play a lot of Saves the Day songs, but at the same time I was writing my own music. And a girl, my ex-girlfriend back then said, you you don't have, I can't fit your music into any kind of genre. We'll just call it Abel music. My given name is Abel, and we'll just call it Abel music. And it kind of just went from that. No one really taught me how to play guitar. It was just something I wanted to do, and I mean, now that I look back, I would have never thought that this is like, if you would have told me back then that this was how my life was going to turn out, I would have never believed it, because I played sports, I played baseball in college, but at that time is when I started surfing. And when I started surfing, that just opened up a whole new thing, because I was kind of over playing baseball already. And it was more like, man, I'd rather go to the beach and surf than want to go to baseball practice. And having that outlet, just you and Mother Nature in the ocean, having that outlet when you're not in it and you're not doing it competitively, you're only competed against yourself or Mother Nature. That was a really big release for me, because there was so much pressure put on me by my father to be a really good baseball player. And that was like my first sign of rebellion, when I first started surfing.
Do you ever play much baseball anymore?
You know what? So I ended up tearing my rotator cuff while I was playing in college, and I had a surgery. It was one of the Los Angeles Dodgers orthopedic surgeons had done the surgery on my shoulder so I could go back and play, and I was all set up to go and play once I transferred to Irvine. But after the recovery from surgeries are so tough, and I was just like, man, baseball. I was more pissed off that I couldn't go surfing, because my shoulder. And it's funny, I was doing physical therapy, and I had just brought it up because I missed surfing. Had been out of the water maybe for like 6 weeks, and I had asked the physical therapist. I said, "Hey, do you think I could start swimming now?" And he said, "Yeah, you could definitely start swimming." So I took that as to, hey, I can go back in the ocean again.
Nice. That's all you needed to hear.
That's all I needed to hear to get back in business. And I mean, I remember the day I went surfing, me and all my friends. It was a solid day at Wainimi Pier, and I was pulling into barrels, and my shoulder didn't feel 100%, but I knew at that point I ain't going back ever to play baseball.
It's tough to compete when you got the ocean and the water and the sand. I mean,
can't beat it. I was at the beach. I was racing from the beach to make it with you guys. Like, it's just, it was like 5:15, and I'm like, I was with my dog, and I said, okay, we got to go. We got to get home. I got to shower. I got to get ready for this interview. But just that one little stoke of the sun and sand on your feet, and the tide was coming in, so I went in the water, like, just, got my feet wet, but a wave came, wet all my shorts, and I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, this was so worth it. This was so worth it.
It's a good attitude adjustment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now,
my grandparents used to live. I'm sorry to interrupt. My grandparents used to live in Oxnard at Hollywood Beach years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad built a house up there for them, and they lived there for quite a while. It's such a beautiful spot. Great beach.
It's beautiful up here. Like, there's times, like, I divide my time as much as I can from here in Oxnard and out in the desert. And I try to keep that balance, because there's something about the desert that really brings a whole different edge. I know it's warm, so you're feeling on a whole other kind of vibrational because it's so warm, but just like out in the desert, you have the mountains, and just like, it's just, every time I go there, I'm just in awe of how beautiful it is. And it's really quiet. And I really feel like the creative juices turn on when I'm out there.
Yeah. It's a magical place. Where do you go?
Yeah. I usually stay in Palm Desert. My son, he lives in La Quinta, so that's his town right over from Palm Desert. And if I go to Palm Desert, I usually bring my studio with me, and I'll start tracking in the hotel room, or I'm working with Ronnie King out at his place.
And that brings us to Ronnie King. He was just on our show a couple of weeks ago. Great guy.
I saw that. Yeah. So Ronnie's been like. So I was living in 2009. I was living in Orange County. I was living in Newport Beach. As a matter of fact, I was working, I had a job, I was working, and I had just moved back out there from Oxnard. So this is years after I graduated college, and I got offered this job, to move. He said he'd relocate me and do this job. And I was already playing shows, acoustic out here in Oxnard by the beach at the bars and doing stuff like that. But I told my cousin, I said, watch, I'm going to move to Orange County. I'm going to form a band and we're going to get a record deal. And so I had this whole mentality when I moved out there. So I was playing music, playing shows like in Huntington Beach and down at like Gallagher's. Is that what it's called? Gallagher's?
Yeah, Gallagher's.
Playing shows there. And I had met somebody had found my music on MySpace and introduced me to basically all the players that were doing the live music scene at that time. And he had mentioned, hey, there's this guy, Ronnie King. You should look him up. Why don't you try to set a meeting? And so I called the studio and I was like, hey, I want to meet Ronnie. Can we set up a meeting? And so when I was on my way to meet Ronnie, I was listening to a song by Tupac and John B called Are You Still Down? And I swear to God, this is the honest to God truth. I was on my way to meet him. I was listening to that song, rewinding on a dub cassette tape to go meet him. And so when I got to the recording studio and I walked into the studio, there's the multi-platinum plaque for that exact same record that I was listening to.
That's crazy.
And I was just like, wait a minute, this is weird what's going on right now. Like I was trying to comprehend, like, okay, wait a minute. Like I'm listening, like what? Like I can't put it into words. Like, wait a minute, what's happening? And I'm in the studio, I'm waiting for Ronnie. Ronnie comes out of one of the office rooms, and he comes out and I'm like, hey, are you Ronnie? Are you Ronnie King? Ronnie? And he's like, yeah, man, I'm Ronnie. What's up, dude? Like, calm down. And I'm like, you don't understand, dude. I'm listening to this song right now. And he plays it cool, typical producer playing it cool. Nah, man, what are you talking about? No one listens to music from the 90s anymore. And I have him come to my truck, and I turned on the car and I played the music. The music was already playing, and that's when he had that aha moment. Like, wait a minute, who are you, dude? Like, and I'm like, man, he's like, where are you from? I said, I tell him the same story. I'm from Oxnard. And he's like, dude, I know all the locals in Oxnard. I work in the hood with all the rappers. And,
nice.
And he had knew some other local rappers that I had knew. And that was kind of like, that's how we hit it off from just setting up a meeting to fate happening like that. And that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
It was just meant to be.
Yeah.
And since then, you've worked with quite a few other big names, some Latin Grammy winning producers, and
Kenny
guitarists from Steel Pulse. I mean, you've really had an opportunity to work with some great people. Yeah,
it's definitely. It definitely has been a blessing for the opportunities. I think a lot of it had to be at being at the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
And God. I mean, these events. I mean, it's kind of weird now because that one meeting with Ronnie has kind of orchestrated the way my music career up to this day. Because Ronnie's always been my go-to guy. And I mean, we're friends, we're brothers. Like, my go-to guy when it comes to like things about life or things about music or asking questions about what's going on in my career with other people and what I should do. And Ronnie's always been a stand-up guy with me, man. He's definitely been one of the biggest blessings to my music career.
That's fantastic. He is a great guy. He was so much fun to talk with, and he's one of those people where the longer you talk with him, the more you realize how amazing he is. Like, I started out being impressed, and the longer we talk, by the end, I was just like, wow, that was really cool. He's a great guy.
Yeah, good dude. What's up, Ronnie?
Now, one of the things you've been vocal about is mental health, and we talk a lot about obviously addiction and recovery on this show because we're here to raise awareness and to raise funding for Bradley's House, and mental health really often goes hand in hand with addiction. So I think it's an important subject, and I think it's something that a lot of people listening can really relate to. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's open book about it. So it's like I was having, ever since I was little, I've used to, now that I understand it as I'm older, I was really OCD about a lot of things, just certain things that I would do, these little quirks, I would call them, like I knew they weren't normal, but it was just whatever I had to do to make myself feel better. I'll give you an example. So like being a kid, when I turn off the light in my room, like I would leave my finger on the light switch and hold it down and tell myself it's off, it's off, it's off, it's off, it's off. And then about after 10 times, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's off. I can go on my way. And so that was, I know that wasn't normal stuff.
Yeah.
But as I got older and when I went away to school, I think being on my own and experiencing life like that, getting out of the house, I think like what really triggered it was around the time when I had finished college. There was some traumatic things that had happened in my life, in my family. And really, I think was like the trigger of when I would start having these things. So when I had already graduated, I was living in Laguna Beach. I had a good job. I was working in the mortgage industry. I was still playing music. Music wasn't serious at that time. It was just, just play jam and play guitar. But my brother had ran away, and my brother was having difficulties as he was growing up, through high school. And I get a phone call, and be in mind, I was 22 years old. I was living on my own. I had a really good job. I had, money in the bank, like everything was going solid. And, I get thrown this curveball, and it happened a couple times. My dad would call me and say, hey, your brother tried to hurt himself, talk to him. But this was the ultimate when he ran away. And, my parents were afraid, and they called me to help look for him, call his friends, try to help us. We don't know what to do. And, me being the type of person that I am, I dropped everything so I could find my brother, because that's my little bro. You don't want to see your siblings go through stuff like that. And I was trying to convince him when I got him on the phone. I was trying to convince him that if he moved to Orange County, that he could live with me. He could start over. He would be out of, my parents were tough on us as kids, and he could move out of the house. He could start his life over. And when he finally agreed to it, so I dropped everything. I left work. I'm driving from Aliso Viejo racing to get back to Oxnard. And then I get a phone call from his friend that, your brother slit his wrist. He took a bunch of pills. His friend's freaking out because he's bleeding all over the house of his friend's house.
Oh, gosh.
And that hit me. I think that hit me right when I think it was like when I was passing where the Goodyear blimp is on the 405.
Yeah, by the 110.
Yeah. And so at that point, I'm just like, I was devastated, because my brother had promised me that he wouldn't do anything. And I put my job, put everything on the line. I dropped everything just so I could be there for my brother. Okay. And, when I showed up at the hospital, it was, I didn't know the extent, like how, my brother had, cut his wrist, but nothing to this extent. So when I went back in the emergency room to go see him, like, it was traumatizing. He's bleeding out of his arms, and he's vomiting all this black stuff because they're trying to get it, trying to clean his system. Yeah. And it was a lot to take in, because I was only 22, and wow. You're still young, you're still developing your mind. And it was just like, wasn't disappointed. I was just traumatized, because I was just to see my brother in that state. And it was really, that moment, like, really changed the course of my entire life. Like, because then, my job fired me because I just dropped the ball and just left. I didn't really tell him what was going on. Like, I'm not going to tell my boss, hey, my brother's trying to kill himself, I got to go,
Right. Right.
And so it ended up like that one good deed trying to help my brother, and it felt like it like backfired, because there was just so many terrible things that came afterwards, and all at the same time while I'm trying to process what I saw. And so I called my cousin, who was living in Kauai at the time. And I explained to him what's going on. And he said, well, dude, if you want to come out here, you can come out here, And so I did this on a whim, and I kind of still consider this was some of my bipolar tendencies to make life-changing decisions on a whim without thinking about the consequences. So I sold everything, bought a one-way ticket to Kauai, and had my bodyboard, my guitar, and that was about it, And I stayed with him, and And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, Abel's gone crazy. He just left to Hawaii, and there was never any grieving. I don't want to say grieving. There was never any time to process what had happened with my
Yeah.
brother. It was just kind of like, oh, it happened, forget about it. And it really affected me because they say, and I don't know if it's 100% proven, but they say traumatic things like that can really alter your mind.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're trying to go to sleep, and I'm seeing I'm having these visions of my brother in the hospital, and it was very chaotic. And I thought going to Kauai would fix everything, and it did. It really helped heal my soul because I was just jamming my guitar. I was on the west side where it was windy, so I would just jam on the guitar and watch the kite surfers do their thing, the windsurfers, and really get peace of mind. But I kind of felt like I overextended my stay, and it was time to come back to reality. But at that point, I had lost my apartment. I didn't pay my rent. I just left. I did a lot of very unresponsible things, and irresponsible things. And I had to start over. So I was back living with my parents. I had gotten a job, and it just seemed like I was always making these like life-changing decisions at the moment when I knew I knew I was going to have to face the consequences, but it was like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways, And as I got older, in around 2005, 2006 was when I really started having these like crazy like episodes, these bouts of like huge paranoia, like just really like feeling really, really out of sync with myself. And, they would go away on their own. And it wasn't until around the time when I met Ronnie, fast forward, in 2009, that, I hadn't dealt with it for a while. I was really good. But then after I was worked with Ronnie, and then I signed the record deal, like I got offered a record deal after just cutting one song with Ronnie. And, I signed the record deal, and then, I don't know what happened. I don't think anything triggered it. I don't think, because I was doing really good, but I just don't know what happened. My mind just started slipping out away from under me. And, God, it was October 5th when I was finally hospitalized when I found out that something, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't tell anybody about it. This was like something I just kept inside. I thought everyone dealt with it. And it wasn't until I landed in a mental hospital when it was just like, whoa, something's wrong.
A wake-up call.
And it wasn't like, it felt like when they finally got diagnosed, it seemed like I got answers finally to what the hell was going on, what was wrong with me.
Awesome.
For so many years. Like I had been dealing with it, and I'm talking about the childhood, but these like episodes that I was going through, these really like psychosis is what they call it. That was going on for about 10 years untreated. And I never told anybody about it, because I thought I would freak somebody out or someone. It's just stuff like that. I mean, most of the time you're scared to even speak up.
Absolutely. No, I think we have there's definitely a stigma in our society that we should be able to handle anything that comes our way and, just kind of figure it out and be self-sufficient. But, as you said, sometimes when it's like things just aren't making sense anymore, and, it's good. I'm so glad you finally were able to get some help, because I would imagine it's made a huge difference.
Yeah, well, it was trial and error, like it was like, they were trying to find the right meds that would work with me. It was really trial and error. I mean, it was like a trial and error period up until, I would say, until 2018, 2019, it was really trial and error trying to get it right. It wasn't until I finally got a doctor who really was hands-on with me. Like, he pushed me. He's like, dude, you got this music career, you got things going for you. And like, I don't want you to just end up being a guy on the couch.
Right.
And getting that extra push, especially coming from a medical doctor, was the biggest push that I could get, like where he's telling me like, dude, you can get better. Like, you don't understand, like you can take back control of your life. And, thankfully by the grace of God, I was able to, and I have that strength in me to want to be better and want to be at my best,
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have people come on and share these stories, and I think when I hear them, one of the things that I take away is that people that have reached out and been able to get help and find out what is going on and find a way to get a hold of it, they always say that they wish that they've done it sooner. And that's one of the messages for the people that are listening. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to say something's wrong. Kelly, you said it a million times. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
important thing is to address it, and not just with mental health, but anything in life. You talked about leaving your apartment and everything. It's one thing that I always had drilled into me are big problems are really just small problems that we chose to ignore. and
Mm,
and I
Wow.
think that the sooner you address something and take care of it is the opportunity to eliminate those big problems from coming into play.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, music's always been really important to me. There's always been certain songs that have just grabbed me, and I've almost lived like my life after. Um, it, Not fat bottom girls. Don't believe the rumors. But there's been a lot of songs throughout life that have really meant a lot to me. And a quote that I use a lot in my everyday life is that you can stand me up at the gates of hell and I won't back down. That's a
Mm,
song that when I hear it, I feel it. Now,
mm.
Dylan, you did a pretty awesome rendition of that song, correct?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. That. Wow. You kind of hit me where like you hit me in the chest with that one when you sang when you said that line from Tom Petty. Man, that song. I had been wanting to learn how to play that song since about 2014. And I can't I'm not the best guitarist. I can't like listen to a song, you just pick up the guitar and already know what I'm playing. But I had decided I wanted to do that as a cover, and I reached out to Jaden Secor. He's a young kid that I write music with and I play live with. And he just showed me how to play it, and I'm like, can you show me how to do it as a bar chords? And he showed me, and then all of a sudden I just started playing those chords like the kick, and next thing I know, I'm like, hey, we can do like a totally complete version of Won't Back Down. I threw a hip hop sample as for the drums. And yeah, man, that song is like iconic to me as a person, because that in a period of time from 2010 to, I would say, to about 2017, so about 7 years, the one of the ways that I coped with my mental illness was by drinking,
Hmm.
because I was never a heavy drinker before, but once I started getting, having drinks, beers every day and stuff like that, I started to really feel like, hey, I can mask this. These things I deal with in my mind don't come up if I'm drinking, So it was like I was what's the word? I want to say, I guess you could say medicating,
Like
or I was
self-medicating.
self-medicating with alcohol,
Yeah.
because like I said, the medications weren't working.
Right.
And it got pretty bad, where it was like to a point where I was rescheduling and rearranging my whole day just so I could drink. Or if I
Mm,
got home, I had to make sure I had alcohol at home. Like, or I always had to make sure that I never ran out.
hmm.
And that song, I would listen to that song sometimes, and sometimes I wasn't not watching the video, but just listening to the audio, that song, the words were just so powerful to me. Like, it would bring tears to my eyes, because it was a lot of times where I'm like looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, what am I doing to myself? Like, why am I drinking so much? Like, what is going on? And it was like, man, this mental illness really, really made me tap out for a little bit, because, I was such an alcoholic, that it was depressing, because it's like, man, I've done so much with my life. I went to school. I've done so many positive things, and now I'm just turning into a drunk. Like, it's like my dad would say, don't waste your talent, and when I
Right.
listened to that song, it was like, like I won't back down. And you feel like, and then that song, you really feel like you're that character. Like, man, like, I'm being stood up at the gates of hell, but I ain't gonna back down. Like, but it's another thing, like, where you don't play with it. You don't play with that kind of stuff because you can make a lot of decisions in an instant that can cost you everything. And that I know. And because that song really gave me the hope that I needed to push on, and doing a cover of it, and it doing so well, resonating with people. Like, people tell me, I love your version more than the original. It's like, to get that to me was like, okay, I had to go through all that stuff in that period of time where I could get to the point in my life where I could finally do this song. And now this is like my motto. This is going to be the motto that I stand for, that I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to cave to my alcohol addiction. I'm not going to cave into these things. I'm going to keep on fighting. And that's why it meant so much to me.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out to you that, again, a song, because again, it's a song that's always meant a lot to me. And when I hear you perform it, you're not playing a song, you're telling a story, and you can tell that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys that play that song, and because it's a popular Tom Petty song, and in the local bar or wherever they're playing, they get some toes tapping. But when you play it, you can hear that you're telling a story and not singing a song. And it was a really powerful video that you put together for that as well, paying tribute to your community, I guess it looked like. Could you tell me a little bit about the what made you go that direction with the video?
It was my publicist at the time idea that it would be good for the timing of where we're at as a world and as a society. Like, the timing of doing that video is perfect. And I really wanted to pay tribute to Latinos that I've looked up to in my life, because, in the Latino community, we ain't got too many heroes. We don't have too many heroes. And the people that I chose to be put in that video were people that were iconic, that made things happen. And I feel like there's certain Latinos that they did something and they fought for something, so I would be able to have opportunities like I'm having now, talking to you, playing music, and being able to have success. Because, I mean, a lot of Latinos get left in the dark. And I wanted to pay tribute. I wanted to pay tribute to mi gente. I wanted to pay tribute to my culture, because in the end of the day, my culture is very important to me.
Yeah, it's an amazing video, and it's an amazing song, and like I said, one that has always been important to me. I mean, there's times, recently, with some of the crazy stuff that we've been going through with the pandemic and in my own personal life, that Anna would send me a text message and say, "Oh my God, what are you gonna do?" And I would just send back, "The gates of hell, babe. Don't worry."
Yeah.
The gates of hell. I'm going to figure this out. So I hate to, you have so much amazing original music on your YouTube page. I hate to bring up somebody else's song, but just something that, I could connect to with you, because it just, I could tell the song meant a lot to you, like it does to me.
And, the day that it came out was the day exactly 11 years to the exact day on that Friday when I was released from that mental hospital. And I didn't plan that.
Oh, wow.
It just was like, when I started looking at the calendar when we were going to put it out, I was like, because October was when I was hospitalized, and October's always kind of been I don't want to say a doom month, but I'm always reminded when October 5th comes around, is like, and that's my mom's birthday too. I was admitted to the hospital on my mom's birthday. Was like, October was always been a heavy month to me. It always seemed like there was always life-changing things going on in October. And the fact that it was like, wait a minute, this is exactly, I got out on a Friday. It was, I believe, October 9th. And that's when the song came out. Marlo, stop. That's when the song, hey, Killer. Shh. He's a little dog. but but it ended up falling all on the same day, and it was just like, wait a minute, how trippy is this that I'm putting this song out on the day that I got out of the hospital? Because when I got out of the hospital in 2009, I ended up opening up the show at the House of Blues, and I think I opened up for Seedless. David Ellisiri was in another band at that time. They were the headliners. And I mean, I came out of the hospital like feeling good, being medicated, like performing at the House of Blues a couple days later, right after I got out of the hospital. So that era, that timing of that song and the whole vibe of October, it really came around. I want to say that word again, full circle, because now I'm putting out this song where I didn't back down or give up to the trials that I had to face, and especially getting through, powering through with this mental illness that I got.
Mm.
Now, we know that everybody's going to go and check out I Won't Back Down now at Dylan Garcia Music on YouTube, right? So they're going to go check out that song. Now, after they're done with that, they're going to love it, and they're going to say, you know what, I want to check out one more. Dylan, what's one more song? And I know it's tough because I know they're all your babies, but after they hear that and they're going to check out one more to try to get hooked, what song should they be looking for?
They should be looking for well, whether they speak English or Spanish, because I did both songs. I did a version in English and in Spanish. I definitely think they'd be looking for "It's a Beautiful Day" or "Hermoso Día."
Okay, perfect. So, because again, we have a lot of listeners that specifically are looking for that new music and something fresh. And like I said, when I saw you did a version of "I Won't Back Down," I had to click on it, and wow, your sound is just it's amazing. It's really clean, and it's a really fun way to present that song. And I started jumping through your catalog a little bit more, and it's the way that you describe yourself in the bio is kind of how your music comes off. It's a little bit of everything, and it's a nice buffet of music. So I think our listeners will really enjoy that. Now, go ahead. This is an opportunity right here for all of the listeners that are looking for that new fun artist to get into. Where can they check out all your stuff? Plug everything. Where are you playing? What's your website? Can they buy T-shirts? Give it to them.
Yeah. So for my music, and you could just go to DylanGarciaMusic.com. It's got all the links. It's Dylan, Dylan, like Bob Dylan, DylanGarciaMusic.com. It's got all the links to all my socials, got links to the music, Spotify, iTunes. Everything's on that page. I had just opened a online e-commerce store selling the clothing line that I began. My clothing company is called Koala Drive. We got a cool looking koala bear on a surfboard surfing. We just got a bunch of hats in. The website just went live. It's thekoaladrive.com. Thekoaladrive.com. Just open that up. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, Dylan Garcia Music. On tomorrow, actually, I have a brand new record coming out called It's a Vibe. That record was produced by Ronnie King and Tony G. We did that out in the desert about a month and a half ago. It's already been on 4 different radio stations. It's getting picked up by radio right now. And that is dropping at 9 p.m. tomorrow if you're on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. That's dropping everywhere. And we're having a release party tomorrow night at Leashless Brewing in beautiful downtown Ventura from 6:30 to 8:30.
Awesome. So by the time this episode airs, your single will have already come out. So definitely encourage people to go check that out.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, it's a vibe. There you go. I've heard it. It's really great. You did an awesome job with it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show with us. This has been a lot of fun getting to know you.
This is really cool. I'd love to come back on sometime in the future. I would love next time I'm in Orange County, maybe link up with you guys in person. We can talk and share stories, whatever. It'd be really great. And if there's anything I can do to help you guys with the Knoll Family Foundation or Bradley's House, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to help you guys as much as I can, because Brad Knoll's music, Sublime, and I think everything that you guys are doing right now, you guys are bringing a positive message to the music community, and I think what you're doing is great, and you guys are doing great things, so keep it up, because we need more people like you in the music business and helping people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
He's talking about you, Kelly. I just tell dick jokes. Yeah, this has been absolutely awesome, man, and I love that you came on and shared your story. And I always get excited every time we get an opportunity to introduce somebody to our fans that maybe they haven't had a chance to get caught up with. So, you're doing some amazing music. So I really I hope everybody goes ahead and checks you out and plays some of those songs because they're just they're those fun, feel good kind of songs, right? It's tough
Yeah.
not to feel good when you're listening to it. So,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing with us, man.
Thank you so much, man. This was so awesome. I love you guys. Thank you.
Now, to keep the tradition with Bradley's House podcast, of course, we're going to end you guys out with an amazing song. And to introduce his own song is Dylan Garcia. Dylan, what are we going to be listening to?
Hey, you guys are going to be listening to my brand new single that is dropping on July 2nd. Everywhere, just go to DylanGarciaMusic.com, and the song is called It's a Vibe.
Levántense, 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 levántense. It's the rhythm of the beat on a tropical beat. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. You're looking so fly, yeah, you blow my mind. Levántense, and I'm gonna take you home, just roll with me. I promise I'll take you to ecstasy. Yeah, I'll blow your mind, I'm one of a kind. Levántense, I'ma take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. Levántense, I'ma take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. Dark brown hair, dark brown eyes, creamy skin, no silky thighs. I wanna take you home. Levántense, looking so pretty, we can make up big. You're at the party, at my crib. I wanna take you so high. Levántense, I'ma take you to the top. Levántense, I wanna see you move. On the beach, captivated by the beautiful scene. Yeah, we making love to the ocean breeze. Levántense, and we watch the sunrise. It reflects off your eyes. You're so beautiful, baby. Yeah, I'm hypnotized. I can't let you go. Levántense.